Thanks for joining us for Storm Watch. I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso. We're keeping an eye on a front creeping eastward through the Midwest and the South. With it, some very heavy rains. We'll be investigating with radars in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at the tropics. And here's Mr. John Hope.
Well, thank you, Mark. And as we get past this first week in October, we don't see anything out there that's immediately threatening. We do have one tropical storm, but it's out here in the mid-Atlantic, and it's moving towards the northeast, away from any land. We have a little disturbed weather in the Caribbean, but we don't see anything there that is likely to develop. There might be a little low center here, but it's apparently over the eastern part of Nicaragua. And what you see there in the Gulf of Mexico, that's along the trailing end of an old front. Nothing expected there. We have one other disturbance farther east here. I'll show you that in just a minute when we get over there. Now, this is the latest information we have on Lisa, centered 975 miles east-northeast of the Leeward Islands. Top winds now up to 60 miles an hour, moving a little faster than it was, about 17 miles per hour now. Estimated pressure about 1,000 millibars. Now, the winds have been increased on this last advisory up to 60 miles an hour. But as we look at the satellite picture in the last few hours, it seems to be a bit less organized. The shear seems to be affecting it a little bit more than it was. And the circulation center is entirely out from under this deep, these deep clouds here as depicted in the red, which shows the highest tops. Now we can see that better on a visible picture. And as we look at the visible, there you can see the circulation center is entirely exposed now. No bright white clouds over it at all. So for that reason, we wouldn't expect to see this increase anymore at all in strength. In fact, it may weaken a little bit. Now, as far as the path of it is concerned, we expect the northeast movement to continue for a while, and then to kind of move toward the north as it goes around, as we get a high in the upper atmosphere, or a low in the upper atmosphere developing out here, and we think it's going to go around the periphery of that low and turn more toward the north. But it's not going to affect any land areas, so don't worry about that one at all. Now, in the Caribbean Sea off Nicaragua here and down north of Panama, we have some disturbed weather, but certainly nothing very organized there at all, and doesn't appear to be becoming any better organized. Now, we could identify a low center there. That appears now to have moved inland in Nicaragua, and that's going to make any development there even less likely. And as you mentioned earlier, the clouds we see down the Bay of Campeche, that's along the tail end of an old front, nothing expected there. We do have this one disturbance out here in the East Atlantic we're watching rather carefully. It's moving along toward the west. It's at quite a low latitude. It would have to stay at a very low latitude in order to get all the way across the ocean. I think the odds against that happening are pretty great. There it is. It's about 2,300 miles to the Caribbean, so certainly nothing to worry about there at all. Now, so far this year, we've had 12 named storms, 7 hurricanes, 2 major hurricanes. That's the hurricanes with winds over 110 miles an hour, and that compares to an average of 9, 6, and 2. And we remind you that even though we're past the peak of the hurricane season, which occurred on the 10th of September, we have a secondary maximum here just about this time in October, and a lot of those have developed here in the Western Caribbean Sea, where you see this concentration. Well, today we have lots of rainy weather from the Gulf to the Great Lakes, so here's Mark to bring you up to date on that. Mark?
All right, thanks, John. And the good news is we're not looking for severe thunderstorms, but there could be some very heavy downpours, especially along the Gulf Coast, where we are looking for an additional 1 to 3 inches of rain. And there'll be a soaking rain, possibly on the order of a couple of inches around Columbus, Ohio. Here's a look at your radar, and you can see the band of rain stretching from Louisiana into Michigan. And as we go down the band here, you see it's been a rainy morning in Detroit. That rain will be moving into Cleveland and Columbus very shortly. South of here, the rain continues Indianapolis, Evansville. Heavy downpours in Middle Tennessee, right around Birmingham, and down into lower Alabama. Let's get you a closer view of the radar here, and we are looking at blinding rains in Mobile County. Could pick up 2 to 4 inches of rain, and there is the potential for flooding.
Frost and chilly temperatures invade New England. We'll tell you when to expect cooler air in your part of the country just ahead on Weather Center after your local forecast.
Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, the home run heroes of 1998. And now, Collector's Mint has been authorized to create these special limited edition coins to commemorate this historic event. And you can reserve one of these matched 2-coin sets for only $59.95. Millions of fans watch the record fall, but only 7,500 sets can be minted before the mold is destroyed. Each coin is individually engraved with matching numbers and a certificate of authenticity. The coin features the official Home Run Heroes logo and the Giants that made this the greatest sports moment of our time. Each is minted with 1 troy ounce.
But no development expected out of it. We've been watching the southwestern Caribbean Sea as well, and we'll zoom in on that a little bit, and I'll tell you why that's not developing, which is great news. And of course, we have our tropical storm Lisa out here, moving off to the northeast. And this was the 11 a.m. information. We just had the 5 p.m. information, so I'll move out of the way and read that to you as we go along here. Current position as of 5 p.m., 22 degrees north, 45 degrees west. It's about 1,140 miles to the east-northeast of the Leeward Islands. Continues to move to the northeast at about 15 miles per hour now. Pressure still 1,000 millibars and 60-mile-per-hour winds. So we expect not much change out of this the next 24 hours intensity-wise and direction-wise as well. It's generally going to continue to move on the north on that southwest edge of the deep thunderstorm activity. But what's going to happen is this thing's going to move north and interact with the mid-latitude frontal boundary, become a sort of a major mid-latitude storm system, but no tropical characteristics after
that look at the tropics. And here's Steve Lyons.
Well, thank you, Mike, and welcome to the Tropical Update. We've got a few things of interest to talk about, but nothing of major concern. If we look at the large-scale view, we've got our tropical storm Lisa out here, still heading out to sea of no major concern other than a marine interest out there. Still some disturbed weather in the southwest Caribbean, and we have a weak frontal boundary or trough axis with thunderstorms lingering in the Gulf of Mexico. Let's go first to the statistics on Lisa as of 5 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. Hurricane Center has it at 22 north, 45 west. That's about 1,140 miles east-northeast of the Leeward Islands, which are over here. It's moving off to the northeast at 15 miles per hour. And it still has 60-mile-per-hour winds. Most of those strong winds are on the southeast side of the system as it moves to the northeast. And that direction of track direction should continue the next 24 hours and move up into here, merge with the mid-latitude system, become a rather potent mid-latitude storm system over the next 24 to 48 hours. We'll have to keep an eye on that for your mid-latitude weather. Looking at it on the infrared satellite imagery, you still see some thunderstorm activity associated with it. Big red area here. It's still sheared from the southwest, indicating some strong winds, trying to push it off to the northeast and keep it from developing. The circulation centers on the southwest side of this cloud cluster and really remains only a marine interest, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. We had that frontal boundary that came down through Louisiana last night and pushed off the Texas coast. And there's still a trough of low pressure out in here. And probably the biggest concern we have right now with this would be down in this area we have some lingering thunderstorms and a trough of low pressure. This time of year we have to watch those. They sometimes tend to fester, and we could spin something up there. Right now pressures are not falling at all. We don't expect that to happen, but we'll watch it anyway. Now in the Gulf of Mexico, down into the Caribbean, we see quite a few thunderstorms moving across the Yucatan Peninsula. But down here, we've had a lot of disturbed weather in the last 24 to 36 hours. A weak low pressure system now sitting over Central America or just off the coast there. And that is always a concern because this time of year, that's the primary area for development of tropical cyclones. But right now, thunderstorm activity is rather random. Pressures are not falling, which is good news, and we have westerly winds aloft coming across the system here, and that's keeping it from developing. We'll have to watch the next 24 to 36 hours because models do indicate a slight northward motion to the weak low pressure system as this frontal boundary pushes to the east. But right now, no major concern. The rest of the Caribbean, pretty good other than some thunderstorms right along the northern South America coast. We've been monitoring that tropical wave, low pressure area here that's moving off to the west at low latitudes. Is starting to take a little more northwestward track, which would indicate we don't expect that to ever reach the continental United States, but we'll keep you updated on that as well. Well, keep in mind we have this little secondary peak in tropical cyclone frequencies in October. That's typically associated with that development in the southwestern Caribbean. And if we take the remaining area under this curve off here to the right and compare it to the overall area under here, we still have about, on average, about 15% of the hurricane season left. So we're not over yet, but so far so good, at least for this evening and tomorrow and the next day. Tropical Pacific, really not much to speak of there. Usually this time of year, about 85 to 90% of the season is gone there. Well, let's get back to the United States and severe weather with Mike now.
Thanks a lot, Steve. We're looking at much better weather, a bit of a drying pattern now where you're getting soaked in Texas and on into Missouri the last few days. And that'll be something that'll come in handy, although it's probably going to rain in the Midwest again in a few days. But this front is more or less stationary. Strong thunderstorms, heavy downpours. Buffalo, Erie, Cleveland recently, down to Cincinnati, just east of Nashville. We're now happy that the flood watches have been canceled in Mississippi and Louisiana, but still a lot of heavy rain to come in Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, and your rivers are still running very high. Looking at the south, we've got those showers that are moving on through parts of Alabama right now toward Georgia, and if you're driving into Atlanta for that ball game, you're going to have a lot of rain on the way in.
Downpours put a damper on areas from the Great Lakes to the Gulf Coast. Find out if you'll need to keep an umbrella handy. Watch Weather Center after your local forecast.
This program was sponsored by Honda Generators. Power when you really need it.
There are some people who prefer to be left in the dark. But if you prefer the light, you need a Honda Generator. They're easy to start, efficient, and quiet. But best of all, they're reliable.
Honda.
That thing always works.
Always.
Honda Generators are available at a dealer near you.
What are these?
It doesn't matter. When do we leave?
Today.
Great. It'll be just like old times.